All right, everyone. Wednesday morning from the Celtic Way, the morning briefing, looking back on Celtic's comprehensive victory over Aberdeen last night, 5-1 at Celtic Park. I'm Hamish. John is with me as well to chat about all of the talking points and whatever else might come up from the legends in the comments. John.
Always legends in the comments, Hamish. Legends on the stream as well. Let's not do ourselves down. I'm feeling good this morning, Hamish. You know, it's funny the conversation we had yesterday morning about what the match can be, what it can be for Celtic. I think actually turned out exactly what we're all hoping for, wasn't it? Obviously not in those initial stages, but I think once Celtic got to grips with the match, put the goals away, that's exactly the kind of win you're wanting over Aberdeen, just given everything that's been going on at the moment, to kind of
Yeah.
build your way into this closing period of the season.
Yeah, definitely results wise, 5-1 against Aberdeen would all have been absolutely buzzing if you told us that a day ago. I'm intrigued to find out what you thought of the performance generally, because I must say I think we've played better this season. I think we were very clinical when we got our chances
Hmm.
and real quality up front. That's the big takeaway for me. I thought we were decent enough, but I mean I saw the point made earlier. Potentially in the 2-all draw with Aberdeen early in the season, we maybe played better that day and maybe created more chances that day. So it's funny the way football works.
It is funny, but I think we sensed a weakness or a softness in the belly of Aberdeen and just really went for that. You know, I think even though Aberdeen had that strong initial period in the game and they gave it a good go, and I think Celtic's biggest let off of the night was that kind of first breakaway that Aberdeen had that they really should have converted. Where it was 2-1 almost, or 2-2, bearing down on Kasper Schmeichel, and the pass just goes beyond the Aberdeen teammate. And I think had they converted that, then it's a different game. But they didn't, and Celtic sensed that they had a weakness of their own in defence, and I think they really exploited that, especially obviously in that first half. And then I thought the second half was a pretty comfortable, accomplished performance, and exactly what the doctor ordered, with one or two standouts. And I think my initial standout of the night, you know, beyond Idah Maeda, who is clearly the front runner for every award going in Scottish football at the moment, but Arne Engels I thought was pretty good last night, and again just showed that he's really coming on to a game in terms of consistency and output and everything you want from a Celtic midfielder.
Yeah, we can come and talk about those guys. Yeah, second half, first half we start with that. I thought, bit of a sloppy start. You mentioned the counter attack Aberdeen had. There was also the one where Kasper Schmeichel passed the ball to Austin Trusty, and Austin Trusty. I'm still trying to work out who was at fault for that, but Kevin Nisbet should probably score. Kasper Schmeichel seemed to think that Trusty was at fault given his reaction, the way he jumped from diving on the goal line to have a word with Austin Trusty. But yeah, other than that, Aberdeen didn't offer too much and were pretty comfortable. I just thought second half was like a training game. Like I was really,
Yeah.
really disappointed with Aberdeen. I'll be honest. I'm expecting a little bit more, having won 3 games in a row. I thought we were just knocking the ball about for fun. We didn't even really create that much. There was the 2 goals. There was the Idah shot that he smashed over the bar just after the fourth goal. But even then, I kind of thought we were kind of giving the ball here and there. But real clinical finishing last night for all the goals, basically. Like Callum McGregor's goal, Maeda's two were really clinical. Yang's was probably more about the goalkeeper than Yang being clinical. But it was great that he got into that position. And the other one as well was, yeah, the breakaway, the second goal, where Aberdeen were just woefully exposed.
Yeah, and I do think the second half was a bit like that, but I think Celtic had already knocked the stuffing out of them, hadn't it? Like
Yeah.
they go into that interval, and I think Arne Engels made interesting comments where Celtic weren't even particularly happy at half time in the dressing room, despite
Yeah.
having the goals advantage, because they just weren't really that happy with the performance that they put in that first half. But I thought there was a good control of the game in the second half. You know, obviously without blowing anyone away, it was just Aberdeen were demoralised, and Celtic just ensured that they saw everything out as professionally as possible. You know, barring that late goal. But I think the efforts of the players. Again, I'm just going to go back to Daisy Maeda, Hamish, because you look at Maeda. Even at the end of that game, he's just making bursting runs to get onto the end of chances, and obviously gets his second goal, his 25th goal of the season. But his effort from minute one to the 90th minute. I know it's been said again and again, but it is remarkable given, and you pointed this out on yesterday's show, given the schedule that Celtic have been on over the last 2 or 3 months. The fact that Daisy Maeda's played almost every game, and in the games he does play, he plays almost the 90 minutes in every single match. I think for him to just keep continuing to show that endeavour and desire to get on the end of chances, even in the 90th minute of matches that Celtic have already won comfortably, is just a credit to him and a credit to the way he goes about his business at Celtic.
I think he's got 10 goals in his last 8 matches since Kyogo left the club. 7 of those were starts, and it's a good point you make, by the way. I was looking at this earlier. I think for all 7 of those starts, he's finished the game as well, which is pretty ridiculous given that Jota will never finish a game that he starts, basically, and Kuhn very rarely does that either. So Brendan Rodgers, clearly, if he's going to leave someone on the pitch, and we're obviously still a little bit light in our attacking areas with James Forrest missing, and obviously not replacing Kyogo, Maeda stays on and plays those matches, and 10 goals in 7 starts is impressive when you factor in 2 of those were against Bayern Munich. So he's playing so well. We know about his energy. We talk about that all the time. What about his ability to get on the end of things and to kind of anticipate where the ball is going to go? I mean, he's actually like and I'm sorry for the kind of surprise in my voice, because I feel that there is a part of people, and I'm probably guilty of this, that they always kind of want to talk him down to an extent. Or he does this, but he'll then balloon one out the park. But he's actually turning into like a really polished forward. It's really impressive to see.
Yeah, Rodgers was asked in his press conference at Celtic Park last night, which is on the site if you want to go and read it, but he was asked a fairly leading question in the sense of, someone asked him, is Daisy Maeda a better player now than when you arrived, which is looking for something. Obviously, Rodgers played it carefully just in terms of not taking too much credit for Daisy Maeda's development, but his point was that Daisy Maeda was an excellent player when Brendan Rodgers arrived, and what I think he's tried to do over the last couple of years is make him more efficient, which is, I think, a very valid observation. I think he is more efficient now than he ever was at Celtic, and I think the credit has to go to the coaching team for that, in terms of developing into the player who makes that timely run that you just talked about, gets on the end of things and makes sure he's in the right position at the right time, which I do think has been an improvement in his game over the last couple of years. So when you have that work ethic and that desire, and then you add that kind of efficiency that we're talking about, then it starts to add up to a very elite player for Celtic. And we always knew he had the attributes, but I think there was always question marks about that kind of end product. But obviously now there's no question marks at all. Like 25 goals for the season already. He's probably going to go well beyond 30. And yeah, like I say, he's going to win every award, or he should win every award in Scotland this season, as far as I'm concerned. As electric as Nicholas Kuhn was in those early stages of the season, Daisy Maeda's consistency this year has been remarkable, especially since the December period. He really started up in his game from like December onwards, I feel like.
But just to reiterate what you said, he's 25 goals now. He's gonna hit 30. I think that's pretty safe to say. He's probably going to hit significantly beyond 30, given the amount of matches that we have left, Scottish Cup, etc. I mean, we're talking when Kyogo scored 34 goals, was it, in his second season? We were talking about that being like an unbelievable season, which it obviously is. And Maeda's done the majority of it from the left wing up until this point. Like, we're, without going too over the top, we're kind of witnessing one of the greatest attacking seasons for any Celtic player over the past couple of decades.
I don't disagree with that, and people will say that might be hyperbole, whatever, but I mean the numbers don't lie and his efforts don't lie. And again, it's not just his goals. He's not a player who has 6 or 7 touches in a match and sticks a goal or two away. He's a player who's involved and sets the tone of everything that Celtic do. And again, Brendan Rodgers last night called him the great symbol of what he's trying to achieve for this Celtic team in terms of work ethic, quality, efficiency, just everything. His all-round game is just really what Brendan Rodgers wants the Celtic team to be. What every Celtic supporter wants a Celtic team to be, I think Daisy Maeda typifies, which is incredible considering he comes from across the world and he fits into the ethos of what the Celtic supporters in Glasgow want to see from their football. Yeah, and again, people talk about Kyogo being one of the great signings of recent time. Well, Daizen Maeda is one of the great signings in Celtic's recent
Yeah.
history. Considering £1.5 million or something, Ange knew exactly what he was getting, has brought him to Celtic, and I think the experience of being at Celtic has enhanced Daizen Maeda, and I think the team play to his strengths as well. It's not a one way thing. It's not everything that Daizen Maeda gives to Celtic. I think the way Celtic play and the Celtic experience, I think, gives a lot to Daizen Maeda and what he's offering right now. I think it's just one of those situations that we've talked about it before, where it's kind of like a marriage made in heaven type of thing.
I mean, you're already, without wanting to look too far forward, you're already kind of taking a look at the summer, and I'm already, I'm already asking myself, like, where do we see Maeda next season? If he's hopefully still with us, do we view him as a left winger? Do we view him as a forward? Because for me, he's playing so well as a forward and being so effective. I repeat, 10 goals in 8 games, 7 starts since Kyogo left, and since he's basically become a striker for us. He's almost too good not to be a forward for us next year. So I'm almost looking at it and saying, do you go with Maeda and Idah and potentially sign a third player, or maybe Johnny Kenny or someone, and it's a winger you need to sign rather than a forward? Have you got any thoughts on that?
I mean, it is a tricky one. I think Rodgers will be in the market for like another centre forward. It feels like that because I think one of the comments Rodgers made early in the season that was interesting was that everyone was talking about Maeda can play through the middle if Kyogo leaves, etc. But Rodgers' argument was he doesn't want to take those goals out of the team, from those wide areas. He wants a centre forward who's also contributing a lot of goals, as well as wingers who are contributing a lot of goals. So, I mean, the versatility does make it like, what do Celtic go forward with? Do they pursue the elite striker? Do they, maybe look at another winger as backup to Jota? I mean, it is an interesting one how it'll play out. I've got a feeling that the left wing will be like Maeda and Jota, which are two different types of threats, and then we'll hopefully have another centre forward coming in to kind of compete with Idah. That's what I would commit to, but I understand your point that Maeda's been exceptional through the middle, so there's no real stress in that regard.
Yeah, I mean that's a good thing. As long as he's with us next season,
Yeah.
that's the main thing. Other players last night, I agree with you. Arnie Engels, I thought had a really good game. I think we're starting to really see what and who Arnie Engels is, and he's just a bundle of energy who pops up everywhere on the pitch. He's just such a great all round player. He can provide. He can, like we saw last night, he can score goals generally. Good set piece taker, very good defensively. I think he's getting better at that as well. And as I say, just a bundle of energy all over the pitch. Like he pops up between the centre backs at times, picking the ball up in the kind of Callum McGregor traditional position, and then he's out on the right wing, and then he's getting on the end of a cross. I just think the sky's the limit for him. I think he's only going to get better as we go forward.
I think the big improvement that I'm seeing in Arne Engels, because his technical ability has never been in doubt for me, it's been apparent from his first moments in a Celtic shirt. I think what he's making great strides in is his awareness of players around him, opposition players around him particularly, and that has been something that has been improved more. I think in Scottish football you don't get much time on the ball at all. It's a very fast-paced league for its faults and for its strengths. It's just fast-paced and physical. That is what the Scottish Premiership is. I think he's becoming more aware of that, and I think as a result his timing is getting better in terms of making the runs and releasing the ball, and when to release the ball, when to make the pass that he's making. So his timing awareness is really improving, and that in combination with his technical ability is making him stand out more and more. And as I say, I thought he was undoubtedly one of Celtic's best players last night. And I think there's an argument to say he's been one of Celtic's best players over the last couple of months. I know he's had the odd, not a stellar game as here and there, but I think he's been one of the consistent forces in the team during the period that like we're kind of talking about over the last 2 or 3 months. That kind of 90 days thing that you brought up yesterday, I would put Engels in the top 3 or 4 players that have been performing for Celtic in that period.
Yeah, as I say, I just think he's going to get better and better. He's obviously it's well publicised and well known how young he is, and he's only going to improve as he gets to know Scottish football better. But just really like what I'm seeing from him. He fits seamlessly into that team and really kind of switched on guy as well. I really enjoy listening to his interviews. He was speaking with Alistair Johnson after the game yesterday. Barely got a word in, John, you won't be surprised to hear, because
A bit like
Gillison
you on the
likes to
show
chat.
when I've got a coffee in me, Hamish.
Have you got a coffee in you?
I do. I've got a coffee right here. I've got a coffee
Dear.
right here. There we go.
God help. Subs wise, I think you could probably say something about all of the subs. Luke McCowan, I felt, came on. I didn't feel Hatate was having the best of games. He looked a little bit tired yesterday, so I felt McCowan came on and just jazzed up her play a little bit. I don't know, just got the ball moving a bit and added a bit of pace to things. Yang was pretty good. Again, Hamish, get rid of the surprise in your voice. Apologies to any Yang fans out there. He was very good. He was involved in he scored the 4th goal, and he was involved in the 5th goal as well. And I was really pleased we got that 5th goal, because Aberdeen had scored and they were about to have the final say. And I know it wouldn't have massively mattered if it was 4-1. Still would have been a great result. But the game was petering out, I think, 91, 92 minutes. And Yang just picked it up and drove with it and slid in Johnson, who puts it across, and Maeda puts it in. So I really liked that from Yang late on in the game. You know, don't just accept 4-1. You play for Celtic. Go and score that 5th goal, and he made it happen.
Yeah. I mean, we spoke about Yang yesterday morning, and I think there's question marks about his long-term future at Celtic in terms of whether he'll make it as a Celtic player, if you will. But I think last night he did what you wanted him to do. I think Luke McCowan, he just relishes that kind of situation that he came into last night, and the team are tiring, they're demoralised, and there's spaces on the field. And I think Luke McCowan is very good at that. And I'm a big fan of Luke McCowan just in how to, like, watching him play. Like, I think he plays football in a very nice pleasing to the eye fashion. And that's what I enjoy about Luke McCowan more. And again, he's one that I think will take time to become a consistent starter at Celtic if he ever will. But I think in this squad role, I think Luke McCowan is excellent. And is the ideal player to bring off the bench in that scenario for all sorts of reasons. So, yeah.
Yeah, as I say, Luke McCowan came on, added something. Yang added something. Adam Idah wasn't really involved too much. In fact, I was watching him when he first came on. I don't think he touched the ball for about 10 minutes when he first came on, and then we scored, and he had that shot where he, again, was it possibly Yang played it into him, and he turned quickly and fired it over the bar. And there was a moment later on in the game, I can't remember exactly who had the ball, but it was a moment we kind of had a good chance to attack, and I think it might have actually been Yang, and he gave the ball away, and it was a little bit sloppy, and I just saw Idah pretty frustrated. And Francis is mentioning, he looked an unhappy player last night. His face was tripping him at the end. I think he's unhappy because he's not scoring at the moment. He strikes me as that kind of guy, and I think we know he's that kind of guy. And I just hope he isn't trying too hard to score. That effort he had last night, for me, was him just really, really wanting to score and battering the ball. And it was a half chance, but just a bit kind of more calm. The goals will come, Adam. You don't need to panic, and I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think any unhappiness or frustration is inwardly directed at himself. Like you say, I think he feels like it feels like he's that kind of player where he's directing that on himself. He wants himself to achieve and be the best he can be, and he was trying very hard last night, and he does want to make a success of himself, which is what you want. And I think he will get more goals between now and the end of the season. I think, I don't think I'm hoping that he's not going to go on another of those long scoreless streaks. I think that's maybe behind him, and hopefully he can just get goals here and there. It'll be more difficult now, though, as we've mentioned. The schedule's kind of clearing up, isn't it? So there'll be less opportunities for him to play, but hopefully he can just find a comfort in contributing what he is at the moment, because I think it's quite clear that Rodgers is going to go with Jota, Maeda and Kuhn as the front three.
I think so. Based off last night, and as you say, the fact we're going into one game a week, potentially if we win the league, we might get an opportunity. Win the league early, we might get an opportunity to see certain players. Maybe one of them is Jude Bonnar, who came on last night, and I was watching him pretty closely. He wasn't heavily involved, but I thought he had a few pretty nice touches. Clearly left-footed from the looks of things. Neat and tidy. Looks like a man as well. I don't know if you saw his media interview with Celtic TV after the game, and yeah, he'll let's just say he'll come on a bit as he gets older and a bit more used to media interviews. It can't be easy, but he looks like a man when you watch him, and he even like kind of looking at his face and stuff. He doesn't look like a boy. You know what I'm saying? Like I get
No,
the
no, I know what
impression
you mean. Yeah.
he could be someone who could offer something for us.
So, like, the thing with youth players coming through, and I agree it's been an issue for Celtic over the last decade. Um, there's a sense of like if a player's not knocking on the first team by the time they're 16 or 17, then they can't be good enough, which I don't think is true at all. I think development is never, it's never a checkbox thing. It happens for different players at different times. And this isn't me saying Jude Bonner's the next great hope of the Celtic Academy, not at all, because we just don't know yet. It's more that, like, he's 19, he turns 20 later this year. But the intriguing thing about that is what Rodgers has said in recent times about bringing through youth players, that these players need to have patience and trust themselves to develop behind the scenes at Celtic before coming into the first team. And I think maybe Jude Bonnar is one of the players who has done that. He's not really angled for a move elsewhere. He's just been playing for the B team. He signed his professional terms with Celtic. He signed another contract. He's been working behind the scenes, and now he's involved day to day training with the Celtic first team. Now he's getting the chance to show Brendan Rodgers what he can do, and has shown that patience. And as I say, 19 turning 20, now might be his time to make that kind of push into the Celtic team, which makes his situation interesting. And again, it's not, he's going to be a superstar. I think what Brendan Rodgers was doing last night was giving him that, he's given them that kind of the taste of senior football that might motivate him to now take his game on to another level. He's got the feeling of what it feels like to play for Celtic, even for 10 minutes, and hopefully that now lights a fire in him further to further push in training, to further impress Brendan Rodgers towards between now and the end of the season into the summer. His contract expires at the end of next season, so he's contracted until 2026. So he's at the I think he's in this kind of this nice like golden period that you want, this kind of Goldilocks zone of like he's old enough to physically impose himself on, or perhaps on matches. He's got that kind of pathway at Celtic behind him, and Brendan Rodgers might trust to give him minutes more. So that's why I think his situation in particular is quite interesting, in the sense he's that 19, 20-year old player. Now he's got the time. He's not leaving. It's not a Daniel Cummins situation. He's got the time to kind of show himself at Celtic and see what's, what we might see from him going forward.
Yeah, I mean, my big takeaway, and he looked nice and tidy in the ball last night. I actually kind of thought he looked a wee bit like Arnie Engels at times, and I know that's who he replaced. My big takeaway was that he looks ready to play, first team football at that level. Like, you get some young players who come through and they've clearly got talent, but they just look like they've got a bit of work to be done physically to get there. He looks like a man to me. He is a man. Like he's 19 years old, 20 in November. But I'd like to see more of him. Put it that way, because I just thought there was something about him. Like, it was quite an assured performance. And again, I don't know how closely people were watching him, and he probably only had 4 or 5 passes, but there was one kind of lob pass, he chested it and volleyed, then he won a corner as well, and small things, but he looked quite assured at that level. So I'd like to see more of him. Do you think we will see more of him and other people as we go on this season?
Yeah, I think we will. I think, if you include Johnny Kenny, who's not strictly an academy player, but Brendan Rodgers, I think it's 4 players he's given a bit of time to. I think he gave Francis Turley his debut, his competitive debut in early season. Daniel Cummins. Obviously, Daniel Cummins is on his way out of the club, but Jude Bonnar, and then Colby Donovan, I think, was on the bench last night as well. So I think Brendan Rodgers has these players in mind. I think he's Dane Murray. So I think he's got these players in and around the team, training with the team, which I think is always a good thing. And then if the scoreline and the situation of the match is right, then I think there's no reason why we won't see these players in this tail end of the season, because I think the squad has been reduced to such an extent that there's space for them, and hopefully that pays off, down the line, long term going forward. But it'll be 10 minutes here and there, it'll be 10, 15 minutes here and there. I don't think Jude Bonner's probably going to be starting matches anytime soon. There's 5 games to to go until we win the title. If we win all 5 of these games, we win the title, and then maybe after that, then there's more room. That's the luxury. If you get the league title in the bag, then you've got the luxury to maybe invest an hour here and there into one of the prospects coming through.
I think I'm pretty sure we are going to win the league pretty early on. Probably, I think match day 32, match day 33. It's looking like, so we'll probably have games after the split where we can play guys like that. I mean, Gary's saying come off it. Would we have introduced a youth player if the scoreline was closer? But I don't think so. Is the answer? No. But I mean that's the situation that we're in, and I think it's a pretty good situation, and it's for me it's much better to be 5-1 up and introducing these players than been 5-1 up and getting, for example, Odin Holm or someone who I know is left, but someone like that off the bench. Like let's get these guys in. They've clearly, as Brendan Rodgers always says, these opportunities need to be earned. So Jude Bonnar has earned that opportunity last night. So that's more motivation for him, and he actually said that after the game, and it's more motivation for those in and around the B team as well. So everything is good apart from Kasper Schmeichel putting the post last night when we conceded our first home goal in the league since October.
I mean, to talk about a man with high standards, that's Kasper Schmeichel all over, isn't it? He concedes a goal and he's not happy with it, and then there's all these kind of clean sheets thing going on in the background, and Kasper Schmeichel will have set that goal for himself to keep as many clean sheets as possible at Celtic, and again, the frustration come through. But I like seeing that frustration in players. I don't have a problem with that. I like seeing that frustration and emotion out of players. That's what you want from a Celtic player for me.
Yeah. Elsewhere, we had Greg Taylor missed the game last night. Yeah. What was the story there?
So I think he was with the squad yesterday. They were at the hotel. Brendan Rodgers said then he got the call that his wife's gone into labour. So hopefully everything's going okay over there, and he's set to become a father for the first time. So well wishes to Greg Taylor and his family for what should be a special moment. But that's why he wasn't in the squad last night. Yeah.
Good stuff. And we are back on Saturday evening, St Mirren away, and just 5 wins in a row now from the title. If one of those is the derby, we win our next 5 games, we'll be champions. Obviously, that could become 4 if Rangers were to lose tonight at Rugby Park.
That's its own pantomime, isn't it, at the moment, what's going on over there? And that's something, I mean, I don't get snobby about this. Celtic fans will keep an eye on what's going on at Rangers. That is the reality of what this rivalry is and what it represents. And so as that pantomime unfolds over at Rangers, Celtic fans will obviously be following every twist and turn of that, because it is quite, from the outside, seems a chaotic but potentially amusing situation. But time will tell, won't it?
Yeah. So it's just like, where are we at the moment? Just a case of ticking the games off, trying to... it's a pretty stress-free zone now that we're out of the Champions League. I mean, the Champions League was providing all of the stress this season, and to be honest, we all loved the stress and excitement. We all loved it. We're kind of in a place now. I know we've got Hibs coming up in the Scottish Cup, which I think is going to be a cracker the way they're playing, and hopefully get a great crowd at Celtic Park for that. But in terms of the league, it's pretty calm, isn't it? Just keep winning, Celtic, and we'll be champions in 5 games' time.
Back on track after last night. Things are moving forward, well under Brendan Rodgers. I think, there's issues last night in the way Celtic started that match, and they left gaps, and Aberdeen were able to exploit, and some of the pressing issues. But I think overall, obviously, the general direction that Celtic are heading in is positive. I think the end of the European campaign was a blow for the players, especially in the way that it happened. But they've picked themselves back up now, and they will be motivated to just finish this job now, get into the summer break. I think everything's there for Celtic to achieve, and it's about having the hunger and being the hungriest team to achieve, a hungriest team in that match against Hibs, for example. Because I think it felt like at the weekend Hibs wanted that game more than Celtic did. And I think if we're going into this cup game against Hibs, we need to want it as much, or if not more, than Hibs in that cup game, for example. And Celtic need to want it in every match between now and the end of the season. And everyone's got them as champions-elect, and so sometimes that motivation, it might seem like it's to and fro a little bit, but Celtic just need to stay focused until it's all over the line, and then everyone can celebrate.
Exciting times for Celtic, exciting times for the Celtic way as well. Loads going on over on the website as always, John.
Yeah, loads going on over on the website. We've got loads of stuff going out today, over the coming days, interviews and features and all sorts of good stuff. I believe you're off for the next couple of days, so we'll have a different
Yes.
lineup on the morning briefing, but no less Celtic chat, shall we say?
Better chat, some would say, without me. So if you're not a fan of me, tune in tomorrow and Friday, and I'll return early next week. Thanks, John.
Cheers.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. As I say, more on the website celticway.co.uk.